Welcome to another episode of Botcasters. Today, with the two of the founders of the Think Room, Liora and Sean. Welcome.
Thank you.
Invitation.
Happy to have you. Sean, would you like to introduce yourself and, of course, the Think Room?
Okay, well, my name is Sean Hayes. I'm originally from Dublin, Ireland. Like most people, Irish people, I left back in the 80s, ended up in Paris, and came to Brussels in the 80s, and I've been working in advertising as an art director for nearly 30 years.
And you started the Think Room. Why?
And because I met Liora. I would not have countenanced to do
Always Liora's fault, right?
No, but I would just point out, look, there's a lot of people out there doing interesting things, but at the end of the day, it's about energy, about how much commitment you want to give to something. So in conversation with Liora over the last couple of years that I met her, we talked about the problems that were coming along especially within the context of AI. We decided to set up the Think Room because with this avalanche or tsunami of sameness that automated AI will introduce, what we thought meaning, messaging, advertising, anything that makes us human will be drowned out. So we decided to build a lifeboat called the Think Room.
I would like to hear more about it in a few minutes. Liora, introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Doron. My name is Liora Kern. I am from the Netherlands, and I have a history or background in communication, marketing, and I have done that in several continents across Europe and in the United States. And after working for big clients and big companies and communication agencies, we decided that it was time to start our own startup with original products to help people bring back meaning, but also to be able to work with AI in a meaningful way. And this is why we started the Think Room.
Thank you. And now
more articulate.
It doesn't matter. We'll get there. You're talking about meaning, and it's one of the things on your website that stood out that interests me, because saying that it should be with meaning, does that suggest that right now a lot of it is without meaning?
I'll take that one because I'm from the ad world, guilty as accused. I've been an advertising art director for nearly 30, 40 years. How I see it, like in yesteryear, the advertising folk, it was their job responsibility to take business problems and then turn into communication that seduced the consumer, entertain them, either make them smile, laugh, think, cry, but get some emotional reaction from the consumer. Because advertising doesn't have the right to. I try to avoid advertising. I don't like advertising, and I worked in the business all my life, So it was their job. It was the Mad Men period where they really had to go out and find a resonant truth for consumers. Now, this little thing called digital came along around the end of the 90s, and it says that's all rubbish. It's all over. We could do ad tech from here on in. We just follow consumers around the internet, whatever website they're on. If it's too expensive, we'll go to the next one. It flipped the equation. So creativity, meaning started going down the list of things that they had to incorporate into something called content. It used to be called creative content, then it was called content creators, and now it's called content. The same for the music industry, same for the film industry. They've commodified everything. This is the goal with the technology, is to commodify. But the problem with that is that everyone will switch off. Everyone's downloading ad blockers. We all do it because we don't like advertising. So it's going to get a billion times worse with AI automation. And the big holding advertising companies are looking at this because the shareholders want it. It's a cost consideration. So Liora and myself sat down and said, well, we see an opportunity in the market, is that we're all human beings at the end of the day. They would like us to react as machines, but human beings are wonderfully irrational, etc. So we've got to go back and look at content again and build back in resonant truths, either for an individual, for a company, or an organization. That's
and is that something you can use an AI for to put that back in, or you have to do that yourself as a human.
So you asked about meaning. You asked, is there a lack of meaning? And we saw all these messages sound the same words, the same double dash, and the same positioning, and it just we just felt it, we have been experimenting with AI from the very get go, and we find it super exciting. So we definitely embrace it, and we think it can be super useful. But when we say it lacks meaning, is that if you don't use it with your own personality to start with, or if it's about an organization with the personality of the organization, with a point of view, then it just becomes a whole multitude of content without the actual. Then it starts to become bots talking to bots.
Bots talking to bots, exactly.
And Sean, how does that relate to branding? Because you have personality, of course. A brand has a personality. How does that relate to branding? Because they have brand manuals and et cetera, in corporate organizations, and I have seen none of them being prepared for AI. To be honest, I've seen a lot of brand guides or style guides. We communicate in this way, but that doesn't resonate online. So how does that work then for branding?
But there's two parts to this question. I'll take one part, the philosophy side, and you're
Okay.
always very good at the precision and accuracy here because we have a product to solve this problem. No, it's good. The problem is everyone's starting to put the cart before the horse. I'm sure there's a Dutch expression, right? It's the same. Let's go back to the future. It's like even in the digital platforms, they forgot about sitting down. What's your business problem? What's your personality? What will resonate with your consumer or the receiver of the communication internally as well as externally? It's like it seemed to evaporate in the last couple of, it got especially bad in the last couple of years. So as I keep saying, with AI coming on board, where automation is becoming a business model for the communication industry, it's a recipe for disaster because not will everybody be saying the same thing. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is it just becomes this cacophony of nothingness. It's just everyone will switch off. It'll be literally bots talking to bots. It'll be the dead internet.
Content diarrhea.
Well, okay, yes, let's go for the jugular here. That's what I like about the Dutch. They just say it as it is. It'd be just literally endless diarrhea. And no, I'm going to use that actually. I think that's
it's interesting you should say that because I ask a lot of professionals also in the podcast. How do you sift through what you see on LinkedIn or other platforms in terms of content coming by or passing by? How do you sift through what's relevant and not relevant? I mean, there's so much pseudo scientific research on ArcSIF, for instance. You look at it, it's like it looks real, and then you look at it, you can't even put it in practice. It makes no sense whatsoever, or it's a shitty research in terms of quality of research. So how do you sift through what's relevant or not? And AI, if everything is generated by AI, at some point AI can't make, what's a Dutch term, chocolate of it. Liora knows it. I don't know if it resonates in English.
But it's a good point, but there's two parts to that answer. Like I was covering the more generic part, but we sat down with Liora and we've come up with the DNA key.
Yeah, and something that we already tried out, so we know that it works. So you said, is there a solution for this problem that is AI based? And we believe there is, but there are a lot of steps that you need to take before. So the old communication agency model was you work with us, you continue to work with us forever and ever. If you have a small change you need to make on your website, you need to knock on our doors and we'll charge you heavily for it. And that is we don't believe a model that is sustainable because there's so much you can do with AI and a lot of simple things, content generation. Yes, you should be doing with AI. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be faster, but there is a lot that needs to happen before if you want to sound like yourself, if you want your organization to sound like yourself, and if you want to say something that makes sense and that is not, just nonsense. I don't want to use the kind of words that you guys have been using before. But so what needs to happen? What needs to happen for that to that AOI is what it's called, as you definitely know, to take place. So the AI generated content. Now, for that to happen, you need to bring a lot of pieces together. You need to think about your mission, your vision. What do you stand for? Because before, if you just communicated consistently, that was enough to stand out in a crowd. That's no longer the case because everyone's communicating consistently via their AIs. So you need to think about what is the one thing that I really want to be known for, and that's what it's better to communicate less clearly with a human tone of voice than to communicate every single day on thousands of different topics. What is my mission? What's my vision? What is my tone of voice? What are my brand guidelines? But you need to bring usually all these documents live somewhere in the organization. Very often they need to be revised. Then you need to come up with a very strong creative around those key points of view. And that is like old advertising work that Sean excels in, right? You need to come up with something really different and out of the box. Once you have all of these things, and there are a lot of other components, also the regulation, how do you make sure it fits European Union law, right?
Yeah.
All of these different things we put together in one huge master file, which is great also because if you're just training your AI, it's all different pieces of the puzzle in different places. And if you want to move to a different AI, for example, because you're building your own one, it no longer works. We have this all in one master file so that you can use to train an AI, yes, but you can also use it to train your new next hire or to train your intern. So it's your master file that brings everything together that you should regularly review as well, but at least it's some sort of basic document. And that's what we call the DNA key. And surprisingly, it doesn't really exist and nobody's really doing it. And of course, you build this also together with your different stakeholders so that it becomes something that everybody supports, which is going to make it so much stronger.
And a question for you. Thank you, Liora. A question for you, Sean. If you go back to the old days of
the old days.
Yeah. Popeye the Sailor Man, right? Now of creating a branding, a corporate brand campaign, which you probably have done a lot. You need the same type of input in order to create a proper campaign, to be creative, right?
Well, it bounces off what Liora says. Nobody's actually doing this. It's like what has actually happened is everybody's forgotten about it. Because I'm as you could probably see, I've been around the
block a few
around
times.
the houses quite a lot, like a man and boy in advertising. It's like back in the day, we sit down, copywriter, planner, and we try to work out the problems we're trying to solve with the advertising. Even though it ended up as being fun, flippant advertising, there was a core reason for doing it. We're trying to solve problems, right? And it's Back to the Future is my soundbite on that one. It's like we should go back, like regardless of AI, regardless of digital, we've got to go back to sitting down with people and say, what are you trying to achieve? Because content has forgotten, the production of content seems to have forgotten. It's throwing wet socks at a wall and see what sticks. If it doesn't stick, let's throw it up. There's no thinking behind it. There's no, just the basic questions. Who are we? Where are we going? What are we trying to achieve? A personality.
KPIs, but also one thing I forgot to mention, which is quite core, it also consists of a AI key. So it's the prompts, those are the things that, of course, before AI were not part of this package. And also never before was it a package. There was no need for it to be a package. It would always have been handy. But now it's really necessary to have it all in one place. And then it becomes, it gets complemented with the full set of AI prompts for different purposes, which is taking it to the AI level, if you like.
That's what's so nice about, there's a complement. Most people say when they meet us, there's a complementarity, there's a complicity between the two of us, in the sense that she's coming at it with a knowledge base that I don't possess, and I'm coming at it with a knowledge base that possibly has been forgotten. So there's nobody else out there doing this. Everybody's coming in from a tech point of view, like, oh my God, SEO's over. And then there's people saying, well, advertising is shit, like it's all gone. I'm getting out of the business tomorrow morning. I'm going off, renting a boat to go around the Bahamas. But nobody's sitting down and saying, look, like this is a golden opportunity, especially with the advent of automated AI, is to sort of rethink everything. hence the think room.
I get that, but it sounds a bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're introducing, and not officially, but like branding or corporate branding guardrails. And I call it guardrails because it's like when you go bowling. Remember you can put these things in the alleys for the children where they always win. You know what I mean? They put these rolls in the on the sides of the bowling. They're called guardrails.
Okay.
And it sounds a bit like, okay, in order to stay within the lane of our branding and to stay true to ourselves as a brand, using AI, because that's what you're saying, we need to have sort of guardrails in order to stay true to ourselves in whatever we put out there.
Absolutely.
Always.
But the funny thing is that very often this does not exist.
Oh no, I know. I'm trying to translate it into, okay, how would that work? Because in the world of AI, guardrails, everybody understands. It's okay. There's a limitation as to what or prompts or orders as to what AI has to do, can do, or cannot do, and basically you want AI to stay true to that personality, and you will tell it to use certain words or not use certain words. Hold on.
Absolutely, that's also part of it for sure. The tone of voice is really important. How do we want to phrase things? How do we want to sound? That's a big component of it. Also, we talk a lot, and we're working with several clients now on generative engine optimization, GEO, because as you said, search engine optimization is soon going to be dead if it's not dead already.
It is.
But it's not. This is not about how to build your website, although it might be a component of it. This again is very much about identifying what questions are people asking in the real world online, and then how do we answer those questions. Again, we can create the content with the help of AI, but how do we answer those questions in a way that is uniquely you and not the same as some other company or organization might answer these questions? How do we do this in a strategic way? How do we do it in a way? And and of course it also comes, we know that AI very much looks at certain platforms. So how do we get you strategically positioned on those platforms? That's another component. But again, it's very much about how you want to sound. How do you answer the questions in a way that makes you stronger, and then you can utilize that content also on other platforms. But again, the thinking has to come first.
And to amplify what Liora was saying, see, we recognize that as everybody has, we've played around with AI for a couple of years since its inception, and I just get blown away. Even today with Mid-Journey video, like amazing. It's a technology that will amplify. It's communication on steroids. We were talking about, like, if you think digital caused confusion, and I'm a sweeping generalization. There's a very successful digital organization, but just imagine it's like you're feeding garbage, you're feeding gibberish into a machine and spitting it out. It's a recipe for disaster. And I think, as I say, people are coming at the problem from different expertise, different angles, different perceptions. But hopefully what the think tank is, it brings it all together. The thinking is under one roof. It's like the think house, in the sense that because we're coming at it from a realization that unless we go back to, it resonates, your brand or an individual or an organization resonates with a truth, and all human beings are very, very, they're like antenna. They can pick up on bullshit right away. If you're in the ad business, believe me, you've seen bullshit, so you can become very attuned to it. And people might not be able to articulate it, but that's why people are downloading a lot of ad blockers, because I avoid advertising, you avoid advertising, we all avoid advertising, because if we don't engage people in the communication, engage them as a human being, it's pointless. And AI will just amplify an organization that is all over the place. Or if you come to us, talk to us, you have a personality, a core, a DNA key that it's done and dusted. It's done and dusted. We all agree that this is who we are and this is what we want to say. And then that can filter out. AI can amplify it 1 billion times in the right direction. This is the core thinking behind the Think House.
So let me turn this around. If you're a company and you go through this process and you do it properly, is it a proper assumption that if you do that and you have the right AI tools, that you need less staff? I don't know which one of you should answer that.
You need less talent, is the question. Huh?
Sorry?
Less staff. Yeah.
Less staff.
Less
Well,
staff. I mean, I'm not saying that the quality of staff should be really good, but right now, if you look at corporates, there's and Liora will acknowledge that there's so many in the communications departments. There's so many people that could be better, or produce a lot of crap, have no idea about the product they're communicating about or the services. So you get all this general talk on websites or in articles or blog posts or whatever, which really are useless in the AI era because they're not being picked up because but also from a consumer standpoint, if they start searching with AI, they're not going to see it anymore. So my question was, does that bring about change to marketing communication departments where you get less people of higher quality, and who know how to use the technology? Either one of you, it doesn't matter.
Before I forget, like that's a very, very, very good point. As I've written elsewhere, it's like the digital transformation over the last 10, 15 years has laid the groundwork for AI to come in and automate it. Because frankly, the caliber of the people coming into communications, because it became about content creation. So you understand what I mean? The dynamics there is that it's very easy to automate a lot of marketing departments these days because people to a certain extent are going through the motions. You know, it's again, it's a delicate subject, and in terms of getting rid of unnecessary staff, AI is like an onion. You could start here. You can start. There's so many layers to what AI is. It's not just a business disruption tool. It's a paradigm shift in how society is going to rethink itself. I mean, I love those kind of debates, but as Liora has warned you, I will go off, spiral off into a philosophical debate about it. But let's keep it grounded for the moment. So that's my opinion, is that the digital transformation to a certain extent laid the groundwork for automation, because what's happening in most marketing departments now is easily automated.
When it comes to staff and especially when it comes to marketing communication, we see that there's a development towards more strategic roles versus executional roles. You still need a strategy. Now, when you have a DNA key, that will really help you as a strategic person to make the right decisions, to outsource the executional stuff. I believe you will still need strategic people in your organization. I also see that over the last, maybe forever, marketing communication has been undervalued. It's always the first department to get cut. So I don't think there are some companies that are an exception. It's always the first agency that gets cut. You see this happening now as well in financial crises, yes, of course, now they're trying to do this again. I don't think anyone is ready for this, and I think the results always suffer as a result. So we are definitely not attempting to build something that's going to cut actual people. We are advocating for them to do different and more useful things than just copy and pasting content from one template into the next, for example. And when you look at the number of channels and you look at the number of ways you can communicate and reach people, there's a lot of useful things that actual humans can still do to create meaning. And we think that that's what they should be doing. Now, my only concern is that juniors would start as interns and grow progressively. If the real jobs that are left are strategic jobs, how are they going to learn that when there are no interns left? That's why we've just hired our first intern. Because we want to keep training and for people to develop with us, also because the tools are not 100% ready yet. But I do think that is a concern, and I do think that people should hire juniors and interns for that reason alone, to allow them to keep learning.
No, I believe in having taking young talent and have them grow, and they might surprise you, and that's a good thing. But what I am looking for, or the question that I have is, Now we're talking about AI, and one of the weird assumption or notions in a boardroom is that AI makes everything cheaper. Now here's the weird thing: if you do AI properly, it's really expensive. Um, and the learning curve of using AI and implementing AI is kind of getting up and falling down again and getting up again, and making a ton of mistakes which are really expensive, and then eventually you'll get there, but you need to start working and experimenting. And what I see is they think it's like the golden something, and the solution to every problem, and it's not. And that's why I'm so actually I like the philosophy that you need a human in the loop to write a strategy. I can have AI write a strategy for you, and it looks real, and it actually looks good, and it's probably good, but it takes me forever to write the right prompt. And writing the right prompt is actually so hard. Even though there's so many databases around with prompts that could work, they never work exactly for your problem.
No, and more than that, you don't have the buy-in. And as you all know, anyone who's worked in any organization, if you don't have the buy-in, you are not going to have the amplification. You're not going to have, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to work. So you need to have buy-in for your strategy and for your documents like that. And that's an investment that is absolutely important and crucial to make.
And that's a human investment, because that's the point that you're making. It's not AI, it's not automated, it's actually old school handiwork.
But you made a very good point there about like AI at the moment is a cost consideration. And that is another recipe for disaster because you've rightly pointed out that to do AI right it'll cost money. Like the problem is I see it, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting pressure from the boardrooms because the
Shareholders.
shareholders run the world now, right? That's the problem with WPP as well. The shareholders are banging on the door, going, "You've got to go automated AI." You've got the creatives pushing back. It's a very familiar scenario for me. It happened with the digital transformation, and guess who won? The shareholders.
Of course.
Um, but
But I think we need to explain why it's costly because I don't think everyone is on board
Well,
yet. Why we need a proprietary LLM for data security for GDPR. So maybe Duran, you want to explain that a
well,
little bit to bring our audience who may not all be as informed.
why is AI expensive? Because first of all, AI is not the golden bullet, and what you see happening now, especially in the boardroom, that AI is the hammer. All of a sudden, every problem is a nail, and it's not. And there's a lot of automated or non-automated solutions that actually can do the work better, because more consistently, cheaper than AI. And here's the thing about AI: either the model runs in China or it runs in the US, and we have some models running in Europe, like Mistral. But those are the exceptions. The big money is not in Europe, being invested in AI. And what you have is that, first of all, there's a lot of bias in those models. And bias is not bad as long as you acknowledge it and you don't have it influence decision making, or you need to understand what it is. That's one thing. The other thing is cost, because unless it's an open source commercial license one, which also has certain risks in it, is that um, if it's free, you're the business model. That's one. If it's not free, you're also the business model, because they'll get you to enter cheaply, which makes perfect sense because it's a commercial strategy. Sony used to do it the other way around, very expensive, like for the Walkman and all the other devices, and then later on lowering the price, getting the rest of the people. And nowadays they do it the other way around. You go in cheap, and then you start raising the price because the GPUs are more expensive, electricity prices went up, licensing, I don't know, whatever they find out. So if you become dependent on AI, which makes perfect sense if you introduce it in every nook and cranny of your company, then that is the moment the AI suppliers like Meta, Microsoft, AWS are going to kick up the price. Why? Because it's adopted, and the threshold to move somewhere else, especially if you trained an LLM, is so high, you cannot afford to go somewhere else, and the risk of mistakes and all the training costs you have um, is just, you can't do that twice. The board won't let you. You won't get the budget twice. The GDPR thing is another thing. Nobody knows where the data is going. And here's the other thing. Even if your model is running on a Microsoft Azure server in Europe, Mr. Trump has this law, the Call to Patriot Act. If he suspects there's any terrorism or one of his services, then they can enter any database run by any American company, owned by any American company on any continent. Doesn't matter. And the other thing, he has this red button. He can also say to these companies, you cannot supply Europe anymore. Basically, hit the red button and they're shut off. Now imagine this, Microsoft Copilot running in every company. And employees have been downsized, or the amount of employees have been downsized because, hey, we're automated. And then in America, someone says, no, let's stop. Let's annoy these Europeans. Imagine what happens to any company that uses AI in their services or in their backbone. It's a full stop. So this is why I'm propagating, and you're as well. You need to own your own AI. And that's really hard and it's really expensive. But in the long run, it's safe, it's cheap, and it's actually greener because you can tailor it the way you want. And it forces you to have expertise in your company and not outside of your company. And that's the other problem. There is very little expertise in companies concerning AI. And that's why a lot of companies are choosing Microsoft because, hey, we know Microsoft, we're a Microsoft-oriented company, so it's logical we should choose Microsoft as our AI partner, which, if you think about it, it's maybe not a good idea.
It's around 50,000, right? To do it.
It's around
50,000 euros.
Oh, there's so many that you cannot name one number because it depends whether you put it on your own server, whether you need GPUs or not, or you use your GPU capacity outside of your company. There's not one answer, and it also depends on what you want to do with it. But the idea is start really small with small experiments, like a small RAG. Get your documents in a database and then index that, and then see if you can get proper answers. So your employees can actually ask answers how we do that, and then connect that to the chatbot on your website. So make sure it gives the answers within the boundaries of what you want to, who you want to be, or who you. So there's all these levels and small steps you can take. And while doing that, you're actually learning, and you also understand the cost involved of doing that. Now, my opinion is that AI shouldn't force you should invest in AI, but don't lay off your people because they have the knowledge of your company and actually what you're saying about who you are and what you stand for and how we do things in order to serve the customer. It actually allows you to scale really fast. And here's the thing, if you keep the people you have and then focus on scaling, it also allows you to have a totally different commercial strategy, especially in services. It's easy. If it's actual products, it's a little bit more difficult because you have production. But that is the thing boardrooms should focus on. How do we use AI to scale with what we have and not with less? And the pressure of all these shareholders, and it's a short-term vision for dividend now, but it's actually going to cost them greatly in the long term. And these are the companies that are going to lose and not going to win. And the companies that invest and keep their people, they're going to be the long-term winners, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more because, as you say, like, use AI to make things better. Like that's what we were saying when digital came in. Use digital to make things better, but then you get a lot of pressure it's a cost saving consideration. Even back in the when digital was beginning to roll out in ad agencies, in fact, it destroyed the traditional ad agency's business model because clients like in fact, that's what we're saying. Like we're saying that meaning is going to be the new metric, because digital, what it brought in was, for people who used to go into the boardroom, the marketing managers, they had charts now. They had results, not this feeling thing that ad people used to come in with. Trust me, this 30-second TV spot that costs you $1 million is going to work. Trust me, right? digital chemist says you don't have to trust anybody. You have to come in with charts and you show the metrics why something will work. And you know, the problem with the metrics system is that there's going to be so much data coming. It's like a tsunami of data as well that you're going to get like absolutely lost. You know, it's like that's why we're very confident in our message, because if you go back to meaning, which is fundamentally a human characteristic, no tech can recreate meaning. Meaning is a truth that resonates with human beings, right? So, as you rightly pointed out, the staff is the DNA of an organization, a company. We'll come in, we'll package it, we call it the DNA key, and it's for keeps. It's forever. It's who you are. It's the the keys to the kingdom.
No. It's like companies that use AI to automate customer service, and then fire a lot of the experienced people, and then the complex problems still need to be solved, but there's nobody there to do that because the AI, most of the times, the real complex ones, they can't do it yet. And the stupid thing is, you should use these people with all the experience to focus more on the complex clients, to make them solve their problems, make them ambassadors, and that actually resonates for your brand.
Yeah.
But of course they're not, because they want to, the budget cuts, more profit, and I understand, but you need to keep a long-term vision on that. There's one thing, Sean, you triggered me. You were talking about meaning and KPIs, and I'm just wondering, how do you measure that? How do you measure meaning? And because you're starting something, and then in time, how would you measure that? Because you must have thought about that in one way or the other. Or not.
Can we cut here?
No.
No, it's a very valid, a very good, it's a very interesting question. Like, the thing is, like, I don't want to get too philosophical, but like, there's a million paintings in the world. Why do 2 or 3 resonate with people? A Van Gogh, or something. You're in Paris, whether you're standing in front of a masterpiece. There's something about when people talk to people, communication, like you just feel right away that there's something else going on. That there's I call it, there's a truth. It resonates with truth. Most people can pick up, even though they can't articulate. They have antennae that feel like it's artificial, inauthentic. It goes back to what you said about making AI chatbots for, like, you call the phone. The voice might sound human, but there's a cadence. It lacks a humanity, and I think that's what we're trying to do. Is that we can create things that just resonate with truth. You just know it comes from a human heart.
Yeah, that's the advertising.
The
real answer is that it is proper KPIs. If this works, you get success, meaning engagement, sale. And so what I find super interesting after having worked with a lot of communicators and marketeers is that they have some sort of dashboard. Oftentimes they don't have a dashboard, but sometimes they do have a dashboard. Sometimes they have some sort of KPIs, but first of all, they are often meaningless. Second of all, they are not checking in on them. Third of all, they don't know how to read them. Sometimes they're drowning in data. Sometimes they have no data or no meaningful data. So what we do when we put together the DNA key, and I'm not plugging it, it's just really
I'm curious.
Do it is that we say, what does success look like for you? When you put in all the pieces of the puzzle, that is very important, because if you don't know where you're going, how can you put together the puzzle? So what does success look like? And then you put together a meaningful dashboard. And that might be, for some organizations, because we work a lot in public affairs, being mentioned in the press. It might mean a policy change. And you can see that. You can see, has a policy, has it been adopted? Has something been adopted or not? And so you need to be. That is something that actually, in my experience, and you can do that in a Looker studio, and you can connect, or you can put lots of different things together. But in my experience, the best way to do it is to first think about what you want to achieve, put it all together in one dashboard. It should fit on one page, an online page. Behind it, you can have more metrics for the different teams. And then you say, okay, every month we're going to look at this. We say, is it working? Does this tell you what you need to know about your success? If not, you need to adapt it. So usually it takes a little bit of time to get it exactly right. And then you after a few months you have the dashboard, and it's different for each organization depending on the goals. But that is a meaningful dashboard, and then you can see if the work we did together, if that is yielding results important to you. I know it's a bit vague because it's different for everybody. If you're in sales, it's going to be different. It's going to be very clear cut. Am I selling more? If you're in policy, like many of our clients, it's going to be about policy change or not, if you don't want to change.
That was the correct answer, by the way.
No, the one was philosophical, and the other one was more practical.
You're a philosopher.
That's okay, because you need both to get to an end result.
Absolutely.
If it's too practical, sometimes you miss stuff. So you need the philosophy to look bigger. But where in the process do you involve customers? Because if you talk about meaning,
very good point.
If you talk about meaning, the customer is key.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very, very good point. So it's not only inward looking, because that wouldn't work. So there's always a point in the process where we talk to it's not always customers, because many of our clients are not B2C, they're more B2B or B2G, business to government.
Yeah.
And we talk to a representation of there are, by the way, AI tools that say they can do the same, which we are testing. So then you put your message in this tool to see how different parts of the population would respond to that. But for the time being, we're still doing it with actual people to see if the message, especially the creative part, resonates. Because very often what we think internally is not, and we think it will work fabulously, not so much us, but more our clients, is not necessarily what works the best in practice. So there's always a component, or there should always be a component of actual message testing, not just message, but creative testing.
There's an interesting caveat here, is like, because ad people, especially creatives, are considered a little bit, they don't get the business world. But the thing is, I'm 100% behind metrics and research. In fact, there's a very famous creative called John Webster in the UK back in the 70s and 80s, and everything he did was tested. He was frowned upon at the time because creatives, I want to be creative, But he was I think he won the most awards of all the creatives in the UK in the 70s, 80s, DNAI, Canada, because he used the feedback to refine the creative, which is, there is a kind of the icon of the creative upstairs with all these funny ideas and not listening to the business world. But those days are more or less gone. I mean, most really good creatives today are very sort of plugged into the value of feedback, metrics, whatever you want to call it. So it's just a slight caveat, because there's always that danger is that the creative person becomes a little bit, superfluous to the grown-ups in the room talking about business,
It's funny you should say that.
To get back on your question about the audience, the interesting part is that there is a slight contradiction between building a DNA that's uniquely you and building something that really resonates with the audience. So, because if it's uniquely you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've listened to the audience. But if you want to build something that works, it absolutely has to take into consideration the way the audience feels about your product. And so we usually start internally, and then we do absolutely advocate that we go and test and see how we can refine it. So that's where it gets.
I asked the question because recently there was something that bothered me in Holland. So I sent an email to to some leaders of different political parties, and I thought, what if I have one message and I have it written differently for each political party, resonating with their values, their strategy, their program. So I used AI to, of course, it was a bit of a complex prompt, and the interesting part was all these emails that came out, the nuances. It was so refined, that I was in shock the level of refinement it could reach. And it sounded human. And so I sent them to test to see what would happen. And actually, a couple of them responded to it, which is very not very normal, not very common, that they actually respond to them themselves. But the reaction was, "Oh, this resonated with me, and I'm happy you shared it with me." And then, of course, the cabinet fell, and then it wasn't a thing anymore.
But you
So,
don't know if it was them who responded or if they had an AI write their response.
well, the AI wasn't written. If you look at the language, there were even the way it was written, it wasn't written by an AI. But of course, you never know if it was them writing it, but someone put their name underneath. It really doesn't matter. The point I'm making is that AI, if you give it the right input, enough input, and the right input, it is very capable of doing the right things. But you need to understand how to use it, and I think
But it
what you
comes back
guys are
to
doing.
the
Hold
point,
on.
Doran, about human. You see, like what I've been telling creators is don't, like, if you're really creative, don't be worried about AI, because the thing is, it go back to curation. It's about spotting value. Is that the creators used to be, they would, like, there's millions of ideas on the wall, right? And then one creator would come in and says that one, and I said why? Because he could, his humanity was there. He instinctively understood this is the way to go. So you're getting all this info coming out, tsunami of sameness, right? But in there's probably a couple of gems. That's why I have no problem working with AI systems, because it's about me with 40 years experience, whatever, spotting really good ideas, be it from an intern, be it from a copywriter, be it from AI, be it from a politician. Like, there's the thing, as we say in English, a broken clock is right twice a day. Never dismiss information coming your way, because there's a possibility it's right. So I think that's an important.
Yeah, if you zoom out, of course, a lot of jobs are going to disappear and change. But for professionals that use it, it's going to augment you. I had this whole discussion with doctors. I gave a lecture for neurologists, and they asked me to shock them. So I used 5 dossiers of patients, of course, no names. And I didn't have the diagnosis. I just had the neurological, all the test results and everything. And I used AI to come to a diagnosis or a differential diagnosis. And in 4 out of 5, it had the right diagnosis on number one, and the fifth one it had it on 3 out of 5 differential diagnoses. But the fact that it had it right wasn't a shocker. The fact that it had differential diagnosis in there that they never considered. And the doctor said, "Oh, this actually shocking. I never tested the patient for that. But based on this information, it could have been that. So actually, I should have dismissed that." This is really interesting. And one doctor put up her hand and she said, it was a relatively young doctor, and she asked, "Should I be worried about my job?" And then I asked her the question: if you go to see a doctor, would you want a doctor that gets faster to the right diagnosis based on the test data and is being helped by research in any language in any part of the world, or just her or his own mind and whatever she or he learned from the books and from experience? She became silent. Yeah, we go to the doctor that has access to all the information. I said, well, there you go. If you're a patient, you would do that. What do you think your patients are going to do? So unless you involve yourself in AI and augment yourself, you shouldn't be scared. If you don't, you should be worried. That's it.
That's a good anecdote, and that's what we keep saying. It's an amplifier of what's already there. I think a lot of people, individuals, underrate themselves. We've had this discussion. Companies underrate themselves. Organizations underrate. The solution I found over the years is staring them in the face. But sometimes it needs an ad agency to come in and tell them, there it is. The thing. I know that sounds like made up and it's a sales pitch, but it's actually reality of life. Is that the solution is in the question. Really, it's the hiding a solution hiding in plain sight, and you need people to come in and say, look, you have.
Yeah, but that's normal. It's a fresh view, and you look at all the facts. It's simple. It's this resonates, and but if you're on top of all that for years, you can't see it anymore. But let me bring this back to the boardroom, because this is now a company understands they need to adapt. Where do they start? Because this is one of the big problems. they have no clue. So, Sean,
Think
or the think, yeah, I understand the
They
think room,
step into.
but I'm talking about the process, because first you need to take a decision somewhere in a boardroom or a marketing department. We need help. We do not understand what's going on, and we need outside help. That's problem number one, understanding that you actually need help. How does
it's step number one is recognizing there's a problem, because like it's strange world, isn't it? Like even recognizing there is a problem. If as you rightly pointed out earlier on, if they come into this as a cost consideration, I don't have to discuss what's going to happen. Is that they recognize there's a problem, they realize they don't have the expertise to sort of back them up. Because to be fair to everybody, we're all learning. We're thinking at the speed of thought at the moment, because it's literally the technologies are mutating every 24 hours.
Yeah.
So if we're honest, we said nobody is an authority. There's no gurus out there at the moment. There will be probably in 6 months' time, and they'll be invited to conferences and they'll make lots of money being gurus. That's what happened on digital. Same for AI. But let's be honest. Like radical honesty is something we've established as well. We say exactly what we think to each other. Be Dutch, say it, with conviction. And also say this to our clients. Like you said, if they ask us a question, we don't have the right answer, we'll say we don't have the right answer. But we'll come back and find out what the right answer is.
Can I say? I think the first step is, Doron, I think the first step is to step away from thinking that this is a IT problem. It's just like I went through the digital communication age when constantly, also social media and websites, this was in the IT department. And I kept saying, no, bring it to the communication department. This has nothing to do with IT. Yes, they can help us, build the structures or do the hosting, but this is communication, just like when you do a presentation. And it took a couple of years to get that through. And this is the exact same thing. There is a part that's IT, of course, and there's so many components. It belongs in every department. And when it comes to communication, it is very much communication, and you need a lot of thinking, and you need a lot of strategy, and you need and I think that's the very first step, to take a step back, say, okay, I realize this is a core communication tool, and I need a very strong communication strategy that's completely adapted to the I wouldn't say digital age, because that's what I said for 20 years, to the AI age. Yeah,
we're meaning makers in the age of AI.
Yeah,
but let me share an observation. As you just said, Sean, that technology is evolving at lightning speed and faster than ever before, and a lot of it's rubbish, but there's also a lot of good stuff coming out. And companies need to evolve and adapt, but you need some sort of constant in that, right? And I think what you guys are proposing is that constant. That there's some things that stay the same no matter what the technology does. This is the same. This is the core of who we are, and you take that with you in every new technology.
Yes, but what we've become, initially it was that, but the funny thing is that we've now also become, I want to say against our will, also become AI experts in some communication fields.
Because we're asking the questions.
And because we're doing it. So when we create these kits, there is a very strong focus on GEO, because nobody else is doing this. When we're creating the kits, there's a strong prompting kit in AI kits. So it started very much with what we know and what we've done for, in Sean's case, 35 years, and mine 25. So it's all that expertise, all our digital expertise. So it's that very strong core of expertise, which is also why it comes so natural to us. Every time something new comes out, every time a new social media channel came out, we were testing. This is what we do. We're excited by new things. Some people are afraid of change. We love change. We love, the AI. All the AI channels came out. We were testing before anyone even knew about them. So we love that. And so because of that, as Sean said, everyone, an early adopter like yourself, is now that's not what you said, but is now a guru, basically. So this is what we've always done, combined with our knowledge of the new tools, combined with we work with real experts who are real prompts engineers, if you like, and that combined is what we do.
But and an example I'd like to ask you, Doran, is what do you think of angelic AI?
Angelic or agentic?
Okay, there you go. Like even the right pronunciation is you probably do pronouncing it correctly because you've been around people who are actually doing this. But I just read these articles. We just read them. So, like I would pronounce it angelic, agentic AI.
Agent,
Yeah,
agentic.
it's an AI agent. Like for
Yeah.
example, I don't look at advertising anymore. I want to go on a holiday, so I go to chat whatever, and I say I would like 2 weeks in the Bahamas, 2 kids, three, and it will go out and find me. Like this is a real.
Here's the thing. I am pro AI agents, and there's a lot of good things you can do with it. However, first of all, it depends on the model you're using and the data it accesses. Because if there's, as we say, a lot of companies are now understanding they need to do something in their content to manipulate the AI, you're still not getting honest results. And my opinion is that we will see a lot of AI agents running in companies doing useful stuff there where jobs are going to be disappearing, like data entry or which used to be done with RPA. You can do now a little bit smarter because it understands the context and say, oh, this can't be right, and ask the question. Say, okay, I see this data here, but it's not within certain boundaries. What should I do? Or has a decision model behind it and does something. Um, so I think in companies you will see a lot of AI agents doing things for staff, making their life easier. So you can see it in the HR department, um, having certain rules for vacation. You can have it automatically approved because it's within the boundaries of, and then checking with other schedules if it's possible, if that's a rule. However, on the outside for consumers, it is a risk because everybody's going to try with their content to manipulate these agents to do whatever they want them to do or to find the commercial solution or the trip that the company wants to sell, not necessarily consumer wants.
Just
And
privacy issues as well. I mean, sorry,
no. So what I see happening is there's going to be solutions where the consumer is actually being helped in a very efficient way. And in the background, that company will use AI agents to verify that the solution is actually the best solution for the customer or the most optimal price or the best destination, whatever. And come up maybe with alternative destinations if there's no, let's say it's a trip and there's no place in that hotel or in that area. Say, well, in the same country, if you go 50 kilometers more south, there's this beautiful city, village, whatever, and great beaches, so you can go there. Um, and not pushing forward with a more expensive hotel. Um, so I think they will run more in the background eventually, doing useful stuff and honest stuff, because consumers will find out they're being manipulated, cheated, and that's the whole thing with Booking.com. People use it, and of course, there's a lot of AI being used also in booking. Um, people have been deceived with a lot of technologies and practices, and people feel deceived and they're annoyed. And AI agents will do the same. They will use psychological techniques and practices to influence you to do something you may not want to do or you would have done differently. But hey, I told you there's a scarcity or the price is going to be risen in a few moments. So buy now, buy now.
Well, why I ask? Because like not so much the communication industry, but the advertising business model is under threat by two things, like AI agents, because brands become irrelevant at that particular juncture because you've sent out your agent to get the best price, the most flexible deal, whatever. So brand, to a certain extent, it's a debatable issue, but it'll certainly diminish the value of brand advertising, for example. The other one is Meta's Zuckerberg, where it's hilarious. He says, "Give me your bank account details, send me your logo, and AI will do the rest." And I think this has put the wind up a lot of the big advertising holding companies, because that's a business model lots of people will understand. There's no complexity to that offer. It won't work because it will be a tsunami of sameness. But so that's what we want to ask questions as well, because everybody's learning on the hoof or on the job at the moment. So
Yeah, I agree. But coming back to the AI agents part, consumers are not stupid anymore, and they're done being, or at least me as a consumer, but people around me, they're done being deceived and bombarded with emails and information and more information and even more information. There is actually I would call it a stress of choice. There's too much choice, and 95% of it is not relevant. And Booking is the perfect example of that. They know I've been booking with them for, I don't know, since 2000, I don't know, 13 something, 15, 14. And I booked a lot of hotels through them. You would think that by now they know what I book, right?
they don't know.
Every time you put it in there, you get this whole list of hotels. 95% is totally irrelevant. I do not want to see those hotels. And yet I get them every time. And everybody does. And you need to scroll through them. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my energy. It's actually very little respect for my time. I'm in this funnel of them, and it's not just Booking. It's a lot of companies doing that. And they want you.
Ad tech, billions are spent on ad tech, especially in North American markets. And they're abject failures, but nobody has the heart to get up and say, this is just pissing off customers, because the algorithms are not, it's not, they promise targeting, but it's not happening.
And I think AI agents, but specific customer applications where you delight the customer in terms of the experience, you take away the stress of choice, which is inherent to the internet, and basically you become this honest filter over the internet. Because how the hell do you know if this agent is offered by a company? How do you know if that is actually the best price? How do you know? It's impossible to know. So there needs, and that comes back to actually what you guys are doing. It needs to come back to trust. Do you trust me? Why would you trust me? And give me a chance to prove it to you. And that's basically it. And I think that's what's going to happen. And that's where the actual value is. Not necessarily the big money, but because that takes time. But I think consumers will eventually choose convenience, less stress, less information. No, more information on one thing, but less choice based on their personal data. And it will be permissive. That's my opinion. You will ask permission from the consumer. Can I do this for you? Can I delight you? And he will say yes. And then you can do anything with the customer. As long as you deliver on your promises and your brand value, you'll be fine.
It goes back to something we've been talking about. I'm always hitting on digital, but to a certain extent, this aspect of talking at people instead of talking to people. Like, again, it wasn't the Mad Men area made out to be this wonderful Shangri-La. It wasn't, but at least they understood the value of talking to people rather than at people. Digital AI, to a certain extent, will make the same mistake. They'll talk at the customer, and as you said rightly, they just piss them off and they'll just switch off.
I'm going to ask you guys both the same question, and you can answer differently. If and either one of you can start. Doesn't matter. If you can give one piece of advice to a boardroom who is literally in the positions like, okay, we need to change, but what to change to and how to change, where do they start? I mean, of course, I can understand they can hire you, but there's this step before that. Before you hire anybody, you need to acknowledge you have a problem and you don't know. how do you know you don't know? Because the people in their company will tell them they know. The marketing department, oh, we know AI, we know advertising. The IT department will say, oh, we know AI, we have Copilot.
Well, I have my answer, but I don't know, like ladies for. Okay, I was leaning. I says, fall in love with marketing communications again.
Interesting. And how do they do that?
Pull out some metric charts. Um, like back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, like boardrooms loved meetings with their ad agencies. They loved it. It was a day out, if you know what I mean. Those wacky ad people, and they had a lot of fun, and they believed in marketing communications. And there's some great brands out there because of it, like Apple, Nike, Coca-Cola. Digital community says, look, you don't need all that bullshit. You need metrics, right? And that's why everything's kind of unraveling. This is possibly not, there are nuances to that debate. But my personal feeling is that we've got to get back to falling in love with being a human being again. There's mechanical systems out there that can make our life incredibly, it's death by convenience. And I want to get off that road because technology has made our lives wonderfully efficient and made it wonderfully entertaining. But to a certain extent, I think we're getting locked into systems and inadvertently forgetting the value, the joy, the fun of being a human being. Again, intangibles, boardrooms like metrics, they say prove it. I don't have an answer, and that's radical honesty from me.
My advice for leaders would be to focus on what makes both their organizations and themselves unique. Because if they don't know what makes them unique, they cannot amplify anything through AI, and they cannot use any of these tools efficiently. And I am quite surprised every time I meet with any organization that they are still very capable of explaining to us what they do, how they do it, but not why they do it, or how whatever they do differs from anyone else who does the same thing, or if they're an association, for example, why it matters what they do. And as long as you're not able to answer these very basic, crucial questions, you're not going to be able to use AI for communication or marketing in any meaningful way. And we could say meaningful. And so, and the same thing goes for, and we know that human brands, so individuals, are super important. If you don't know what you bring to the table, what the message is that you want to convey, same goes for organizations as well. What are the key messages? What are the messages you want to convey? Not just why you do what you do, but what you want to say. And often it's not even about your product, but it's about the the conditions, or you always have a point of view. Then AI cannot help you scale, and that is what you need to do first.
It sounds a bit like First Start with Why from Simon Sinek.
Absolutely, it's the why from
the golden
Sinek that still needs to be repeated, and we repeat every time we meet someone new that doesn't understand this yet.
That's the correct answer again.
No. Your answer was also very interesting, because if I can put those two together, it sounds like we've been working for years and years and years to automate everything, to digitalize everything. And we're only now finding out that people actually want to do business with people. Because if you look online, you see the complaints of people, I need to talk to customer service. For some simple things, it's perfect to work with a chatbot if it understands and does it. It's so much better than a human that has to access 3 systems. But once it becomes a little bit more complex, you get stuck in these systems. You don't get a phone number. So it sounds like, even though we're propagating AI and automation and digitalization, we need to put the human back in business. That's sort of what I pick up here. Absolutely. Is that correct? And not forget
messages. Like in one of our recent posts on LinkedIn, there's something about the words of like, paradoxically, I think with the advent of AI, it'll make people fall in love with being a human again. It's me being philosophical off in my little world there, But there's a tangible core truth there, is that I think over the last decade we'll be falling out of love. Like there's a kind of a, we're all in our little boxes. That's why we decided to work together, because like I want to sit beside a person and talk. Okay, we're on a box here, but that's just the convenience of technology.
Yeah.
And it leads to further, contact with the outside world. But I'm ranting. At this point, I'll stop, because I can't finish my thought there. But like, it is the meaning for us is a resonance truth based on the fact that we undervalue what it is to be human.
I agree, and I see that in customer service happening. And that also means when a company does that, they also actually undervalue their employees, because that's the other problem. And then that also resonates in customer service and make people leave. So I think there's a bigger picture here. Could I invite you guys, if you somewhere down the line in a couple of months, when you've done you've worked with a couple of clients and you have a use case you can present? I am really curious what it looks like, and if you then translate it to AI and you prompt to see what happens, because then it comes alive. And of course I understand, and I understand the purpose, but if you have a company that is willing to share that, I would be really interesting to bring that to the table and do another podcast and broadcast that, because I think then people will understand even better how you go from, okay, this is a bit of text, what does it actually mean in practice?
By the way, we've built it for ourselves.
We're
and you want selling an idea. We're selling something we've built and tested. And we've done one for one client already, but I don't think we can share that one.
No, but don't be in a rush. I think because every new client you learn and you improve.
We're always improving and then changing the focus slightly.
Exactly, and you I'm not saying you're pivoting, but you're probably slightly moving on the scale a little bit to the left or right. And I think in a couple of months you're probably at the level. So like, okay, now we're nearing the perfect proposition, and that's the moment I want to see you guys back in here and record another one and then showcase that. And then people understand the actual value of what's happening here, because I believe you guys are on the right track, and it totally resonates with what I've been shouting for 2 years now. So
we're the lab rats. If it'll work, we're building our own brand here. So if it works for the Think House, it's immediately scalable, because we know it works. Cool. So everything we do, everything we say, when we think, and when we don't do, is part of building our brand. We just transfer that to our clients.
Well, you're doing a good job. Sean, Liora, thank you very much for the podcast. And I hope to see you back in here a couple of months with some great results and happy clients, of course. Sorry?
So do we.
I understand.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Doron, thank you for being a pioneer in this field. And
thank you.
For the tough questions.
And for leading us the way for many years, because he's been saying this for a long, long time, and for a great podcast and for having us on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.